Always, really, from a really young age. I was, like I said, an athlete myself in grade school all the way through high school, and I just saw the impact that I had on my peers. And so knowing that I wanted to influence change, culture, the youth, I wanted to work with people who had that kind of influence. And in my opinion, athletes really are the biggest, they have the biggest platform. Young kids look up to them. And so I thought if I could have an impact on athletes, then that would be my way of affecting a larger change than what I would be capable of on my own. I found myself a mentor. His name is Everett Glenn. He was also an attorney and agent, represented people like Clark Kellogg, who I got the pleasure to meet through him, Willie Gault, and a number of other first-round picks, basketball and football. And he works down in Long Beach. Well, he lives down in Long Beach. And so when I moved out to LA, I reached out to him and I said, hey, I would like you to mentor me, right? So we went to lunch, and that was 8 years ago. And ever since, for 4 years, he really just kind of took me under his wing. He introduced me to every GM and coach and scout that he knew. And I really just built my own network. And then when I felt, okay, I have the network, because a lot of this business is who you know, or I should say, who knows you. When I thought I was sufficient in that, I went off on my own, and it proved to be, like I said, a longer way, but I think an effective way. I think people see, and even to this day, as agents, we're always posting at games and doing cool things with our clients, and it looks like this very glamorous life, right? And that is all really fun and great, and I enjoy all of it. But behind the scenes, there is so much more that goes into it. I mean, just the financial investment alone is enormous. Athletes require, when they're coming out of school, training, housing, combine prep. We do interview prep. We do, PR prep. I mean, it's just so much that goes into getting them ready for that next stage of their life. And now with NIL, it's even like blown up tenfold, because now athletes as young as sophomores and freshmen are making money, right? And it's like, okay, so we have these 18, 19-year-old kids, and that's what they are. I mean, no offense, but 18, 19-year-old, you're still a kid. And they want to go out and do all these marketing things. And, it's kind of, again, you have to be so hands-on, because you don't want people taking advantage of them. You don't want them, I forget who the gentleman was, on a reporter on Twitter had posted something about an athlete had signed his rights away in perpetuity. And, that's detrimental. If that player ends up becoming the next, name it, Tom Brady, this company is going to have his rights in perpetuity. I mean, it's nuts, right? So it's a huge time investment. It's a huge financial investment. There's a lot of hand-holding that goes on, as everything from booking flights to booking families travel to making sure their car gets shipped when they buy one in Los Angeles and then get drafted in another city. I mean, there's just all these things that go into being an agent, building your marketing team, building your Instagram team, building all these things. And when you're not at a big agency, you don't have all these different departments. It's you, right? So, but that's why I like it, because I don't want my clients having to talk to 15 different people. I kind of envision myself as the quarterback. I've set myself up with an amazing team. And so my clients come to me, and then I can divide it out. I think it's a combination, right? For me, I will say and I always tell players this too, we're really interviewing each other. It's because I am so involved. Like, if you don't like me, I don't care what I can offer you, we're not going to get along, because I will talk to you almost every day, and I'm going to be involved. And so if you don't want that type of agent relationship, then it's just not the person. I'm not the person for you. Additionally, I like to focus on players who I like to say get it, right? People who, like Zack, he's very smart. He listens. He is receptive to information. And someone like him, and he has these great ideas on his own, but he realizes, and I think the most intelligent people know what they don't know and seek help in what they don't know. And so when I find clients like that who want to be great, and they're obviously great football, basketball, you know, in their own right on the field. But they want to be great outside the field, and they want to do more than just play their sport. That's the type of person I want to work with, because again, there's only so much you can do on the field for a player. And so I want someone who's really engaged off the field as well. I think it makes me relatable in terms of I understand, and again, you know, I played Division I soccer, but I don't mean to compare it to professional, but you know, you do kind of understand what the athletes are going through. Even when it comes to injuries, I remember one of my clients, he got hit and he broke his rib, and I've broken my rib before. So, you know, I was able to talk to him, like literally before he even saw the trainer, I'm like, there's nothing you can do. They're going to put a pad on it and you're going to go play again. Like, you know, so it's just like, you're able to kind of relate to everything that they're going through while trying to maintain your life and study halls and all of that. You know, it's being a college athlete is hard. I know it seems glamorous, but it's a full-time job, and just understanding their time restrictions. And they're not just there kind of, you know, living this glorious life. They got, you know, 10 hours of study hall a week. They have meetings, they have this, they have that. So having gone through that, I think it helps me relate to them. So I've represented a number of players prior to Zack who went as free agents, but Zack was my first drafted player. And it was incredibly exciting. The work that went into his draft prep was different because, you know, again, just going into the combine is a different situation than just their pro day. Knowing that he was, you know, he very sought after player. We knew he was going to get drafted. It wasn't a situation where I had been in the years before where I'm putting all these charts together. So I make sure my player goes to the right team in free agency. It was a relief. It was like, well, he's going to get drafted, right? So that was great. But you know, it's still a lot of work behind the scenes. And it was COVID. So that kind of threw a wrench into a lot of things. He's from Miami. And so the plan was we were going to do the draft in Miami. His family's there. He's also very close to this family. And I remember I was actually sitting here getting ready to book flights. And I called a hotel. I booked the flights and I called a hotel, and they said, well, are you, I can't remember the word, transient or something. And basically they were only accepting guests who were in Miami who couldn't get out. They weren't accepting guests flying into Miami. I'm like, what the heck? Because, you know, at the time COVID was a thing, but I didn't really fully appreciate it. And so I started calling around, and every hotel was like, no, 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 no. I was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And so, and I knew Zack wanted his family around. He's incredibly close with his mom, his brothers. I mean, it would have crushed him to not have everyone there. So Jamal and I decided, well, let's bring everyone here. And so that's what we did. You know, we obviously had to keep it within numbers, but had his mom come, his brother, obviously Jessica's girlfriend was here. And so it was a very family environment. We had it here at my house. And it was awesome. I mean, he was one of the players who the NFL had picked to have a camera crew, not actually physical. So that was another fun thing. It's like I'm setting up cameras in all places in the house, and we're getting calls like, oh, there's a red cup in the screen, or, you know, there's this in the film, blah, blah, blah. You gotta definitely outside my wheelhouse on that one. But but it was fun. It was, you know, it was nerve wracking. And then when he got drafted to Buffalo. I'm from Syracuse, which is 2 hours down the freeway. My parents live in Seneca Falls, which is an hour in between. And so I think I was the most excited person in the room. I know Zack and his mom were like, oh, it's going to be cold. And, you know, but I was like, yes, I'm going home. Because, you know, again, my family is, they love Zack. They love Jess. They're very involved. They, you know, were with me at his home opener. They're always asking about him. And so I knew they would be excited too to have him in Buffalo. And we were excited. I mean, I was thrilled, and I was happy for Zack. And Buffalo's produced a lot of really great running backs. They have a really good coaching staff. I've you know, followed the team, and so it's, in my mind, it was going to be a great fit. And so I was incredibly excited for him. Yeah, I mean, it was similar in that, again, we knew Dazz was going to get drafted. It was different in the things that were good to learn. was, really having the contacts at the different teams teed up and ready to go. And also the conversations had leading up to the draft are really important because you have scouts and teams calling. And, I worked with another female agent, Nicole Lynn, with Dazz, and she's great. She taught me honestly so much. And it was just, I'm an oversharer, right? I'm an oversharer. It's just kind of how I am. And I remember her hearing me talk on the phone to a coach. She was like, you can't tell him that. And I'm like, why not? Right? Because it was information that I thought would be helpful to Zack or to Dazz. And so it's just kind of learning, the game, right? Learning what information we're really supposed to be telling teams, what information we're keeping to ourselves. And so that experience was also incredibly nerve-wracking. I mean, we thought Dazz was going to go in the 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th round. And so when the 6th round came around, Dazz was nervous. We were nervous. We were setting up those charts I was telling you about, okay, if he doesn't get drafted, where are we going to send him? Because every team was calling, like, we want him in free agency. We want him in free agency. And so we had all these options. And so then we started the process of, okay, who needs a receiver? Who needs special teams, et cetera, et cetera. And then so when he got drafted, it was like, oh, thank God. Thank God. It was, it was a relief. He was obviously excited. We were excited. And so, yeah, it was a good experience. Yeah, I mean, we're on the phone with the team frequently, kind of depending on the situation. So someone like Zack, who has, as everyone has seen, has kind of gone up and down with some injuries, and we need to keep communicating with the team in terms of, how they're viewing him, what they are expecting of him, communicating with Zack and how he feels the team is treating him, and kind of like what the scenario is there. And so both teams are really great. From what I understand, not every team is like that, but both the Bears and the Bills have a great staff. I mean, when Dazz also got hurt in training camp this year, and, the personnel up there was fantastic. They keep you updated. If I call them, they'll answer the phone. Very forthcoming with information, very forthcoming on how they view him and what they want to see from him. And so really it's just, the players have so much going on that they need us to, communicate with the team, because the team has all these players that they're talking to, right? So we try to get condensed information, understand what the team wants, and then communicate it to the players so that they can, go out and show the team whatever it is that they're looking for. Yeah, I mean, that's huge for me. And I think we all know the statistics, so I won't bore anyone here with that. But it's so important because of how short of time they will have to make this money, right? So in terms of a team, I'm also a very big proponent of hiring experts, right? So although I have a corporate banking background, I have my MBA. Could I educate players myself? Yes, and I do. But I also pair them up with a financial advisor immediately. I think everybody should have a financial advisor, but especially 19, 20, 21-year-olds who are coming into millions of dollars need to have an expert behind them. So I pair them with a financial advisor. I have a few that I work with that, I recommend, and they either like them or they don't. But it comes down to literally teaching how to write a check. That, banks are for transactions. They're not for storing money. So if you have $1 million in your bank account, that money's not working for you. The smart investments to make, how to make residual income, all these things. I want these individuals and their families to also learn, because at the end of the day, if all of my clients are financially stable at 40, 45, 50, I did my job. And so there's a ton that goes into that. And even so much as, they get paid, we start their LLC immediately. So understanding that your marketing money, your endorsement money, your appearance money, that all can go to your business, right? So all of these things that you're doing ancillary can be written off. Their player check has to go to them individually, but it can go to their financial advisor. So it's another thing of not keeping money in your checking account, because again, that's not what banks are for, right? Banks don't hold their money in banks. They hold them in insurance and all these other things that make them money. So if athletes or anybody in a very young age looks at their account and sees, oh, I have $5 million. It's like, oh, I have a ton of money, right? But at the time, they're not thinking, okay, this money's got to last me 40 years. So instead of having players receive their checks to them, we have them send it to their financial advisor. And then their financial advisor and them, they come up with a monthly budget. That monthly budget gets put in their checking account. And I think that's true for anybody, right? Like if I had millions of dollars sitting in my account, I'd live a little different than if I look at my account and see, okay, I only have 20K. You know, it's like, it's a big difference, and it's all about your mindset and really educating yourself on finances and being able to do it yourself, because that way you don't get taken advantage of. I personally see a therapist every week. I'm a huge proponent of mental health, and I think it's starting to come up in conversations, also slower than I would like. And you know, having been an athlete and not at a professional level, but even just having been an athlete and then not, it is a very hard transition. I remember in law school, I constantly found myself feeling so stressed, and I didn't understand why. I was just like this ball of stress. And yes, I'm in law school, but school came very easy to me. It wasn't like I couldn't do the material, but going to see a therapist, it was, you know, we don't realize it, but as athletes, you're constantly letting out all this aggression in your sport, right? And so now you go from training 4 hours a day to sitting at a desk for your whole day. And it's like your brain, your body hasn't totally adjusted. So put that on a huge scale, and now take a professional athlete who is now dealing with all this pressure for the first time, really. I mean, in college, yes, they have pressure, but now it's like they're caring for their families. It's not, I'm getting my scholarship check and I'm playing a sport that I love. No, you're now the main breadwinner. You're caring for your family. Your city depends on you. Your team depends on you. You want to be perfect because as professional athletes, I mean, you're in the 1% of everyone's good, right? We all know the high school player who was amazing and didn't even make it to college. Then we know all these amazing college people who don't make it professional. So it's a ton of pressure. And I don't think it's talked about that these young men are going through a lot, right? And so, and then put aside the fact that they have their whole family stuff that they're dealing with, right? Like, you know, family tragedies or just whatever. They're young men. They're 21, 22, 23 years old. And they're not well versed in expressing emotions and telling someone they're not okay because they're these macho men who can't be, right? And so ideally, I would love mental health to become more spoken about. I would love teams to provide therapists for their players. And, you know, you see some of the veteran guys starting to talk about it, which thank God, because again, you get them now. I mean, I've been in therapy for years and I'm now just starting to come into my own, right? So these young men, we need to get them with a, you know, if they want it, if they need it, if they feel like they need an outlet, it needs to be socially acceptable. So Nicole is great. I think there's very few of us, and some of us are really supportive of other women, and I am, and I know she is. And so I think there's obviously benefits and detriments to being a female agent. I think we definitely have a different perspective. I think, you know, a lot of these young men, some are, you know, come from a two-family home, some don't. Some are raised by just their mother. And so I think we have the ability to connect with them, and not in a motherly role, but in a trusting role, right? So we're somebody who's coming to them with genuineness and really someone who will be there for you as a person, right? I always tell players, I only care where you get drafted because you care where you get drafted. I really don't care where you get drafted, except for the fact that, you know, I want you to get drafted to a team that you're going to make the team. But at the end of the day, if you play in the league for 10 years and you get drafted in the 6th round, I don't care. And if when you come out of the league, you have more money than you made in the league, then again, I did my job. So I think as a female, we're definitely the underdog, and, you know, some players respect it and some don't. But I think the game will really change when all of the players start saying, okay, yes, she's a female, but she can do this job just as good. Because it doesn't matter what the other agents say. It doesn't matter what the teams say. But funny story, it happened today. I went to go renew my certification, and something was going on with my account. My password wasn't working. And so I called over to this platform that the NFLPA uses for their, processing, payment processing. And the gentleman on the phone said, is this for you or are you paying on behalf of somebody else? I said, no, it's for me. He said, oh, so you're an agent. So the culture is still, why is this female calling? She must be calling to pay the bill of a male agent, right? So it's, again, back to who has the influence? The players do. So when the players start to all say, she's smart, she's competent, she's capable, she is always there for me, she can do everything that her male counterparts can do and sometimes even better, then it will change. Until then, it'll always be an uphill battle. So, I empower the players to really embrace it, speak out about it, and I think eventually we'll start to see it change more, but it's going to come from them. There are a lot of advantages. One of the biggest ones that I experience coming up, and I still am coming up, is I've never heard a no to a meeting, right? Because I think we all like to engage with people who are different, who provide a different perspective. And so coaches, GMs, scouts, they're hit up by the same demographic male all the time. And so when I ask for a meeting or I ask for 5 minutes of their time, it's like, yeah, sure. Like, let's go see what she has to say, And so that goes back to my 5-minute conversation. But I do think it's an advantage because we do bring a different perspective. And so I can pretty much get in front of anybody I want to get in front of, which is helpful for me, helpful for my clients. And then too, I think we operate differently. Women are better at certain things than men. And so I think I'm very good at execution. I think I'm very good at time management and making sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And again, when it going back to how much these athletes have going on in their world, they really do need someone to manage their schedules, manage them, right? And be somebody who they feel comfortable coming to with things that they need help with. And so I think as a female, men are more receptive to asking for help than a man because they don't want to feel, again, I don't necessarily completely understand the male dynamic, but I think my clients are very open to saying, hey, Kate, I need X, Y, and Z, or I need help with A, B, and C. And so it's allowed us to have a authentic, genuine relationship. So ideally, I will continue to expand on the athlete agent representation to a point where, again, I don't have 30 clients, but I have 10 to 15 who are doing amazing things both on and off the field, that I can really almost be like the GC, the general counsel of their business, which would be encompassing of them as a player, them and all of their ancillary businesses that they want to do, their families, etc. Just to really continue to keep a tight group. I want to always be hands-on. I don't have aspirations of, starting a multi-billion-dollar agency or, anything like that. But I do have aspirations of merging my legal practice and my sports practice, really so that I can continue to influence this group who then, I always say I want eventually my clients to either individually or collectively write a book or a podcast or something that talk about all the things that I'm talking to today about. They start doing it. And when that happens, I'll probably retire. Well, number one, be a master of your craft. I think any player has the potential to be great, and players can peak and let their less talented counterparts surpass them because they start to plateau or their mindset changes and they don't work as hard for the duration. So number one, continue to be a master of your craft and remember what got you to where you are in the first place. And then number two, build a team around you as fast as you can. All the players that I talk to in college, it's the number one thing I tell them, like, start building your team right now. And your team needs to be small. It cannot be a team of 20 people and, well, this is my friend, this is my boy, this is the, no. Get your team, like I said, get experts around you and do it as fast as you can and just make that your team and move forward, because there's so much attention and people trying to make money off of these athletes now that you really have to be careful of, you know, who's in it and why.